Okay, can we get a sound check from in the room there at the Capitol?
I do not hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now I can.
Okay.
Okay, we're good to go now. Okay.
Good to go now. We're live. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. Welcome everybody to the Select Natural Resource Funding Committee. This is our second and last meeting for the interim as we prepare for the budget session. We have an old friend before us talking about large projects for this very successful and efficient state program. It does a lot of good throughout the state. So we have most of us online. Looks like we have Mr. Fuller and Mr. Budd in the Capitol building. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Senator Cooper.
Here.
Senator Guru.
Excused.
Representative Provenza.
Here.
Representative Roscoe.
Here.
Chairman Paxton.
Here.
Chairman Boner.
Here.
Quorum present, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll just go ahead and turn it right over to Mr. Bob Budd with the Wildlife Natural Resource Trust. Take it away, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and wish you were all here, but it won't be long. You will. So I sent you all some documentation. I apologize for not getting that done until today. I was used to meeting in person and thought, well, we'll see everybody and bring them with me. But just quickly what those are. The one with a number of projects in it is, for those who've been on this select committee, that's all the projects that we looked at in the past year and their disposition. There are people in the legislature who always want to know what all the projects were, not just the large projects. And it's also, I think, beneficial to those of you on the select committee to have that complete picture of what all was done. The annual report I've sent to you previously. If you didn't get it, I'd be happy to resend that, but that goes through a little bit of where we are relative to time as it fits in. And this year we were down a little bit in the number of projects we had, but the average price tag on them went up, which is not surprising. They're big. Most of them are fairly large scope projects. The second item was the large project recommendations, Mr. Chairman, and with your permission, I'll go through that fairly quickly and then we can get on to the bill.
That sounds good.
Okay, the first one, and this does track with the bill as well, is Northeast Forest Health. This is a project that is being coordinated by the Crook County Natural Resource District. It is about $1.8 million program. Their request of us was $400,000. This is a startup. It's they finally have what I think is a really viable local working group up there that is working on thinning, removing juniper from the ponderosa pine understory, treating cheatgrass and other invasives, and opening that habitat up for deer, turkey, other species, particularly songbirds. The photo that's on the first of the exhibits there, first page of the PowerPoint, is actually an area that has been treated. You're looking back toward the treated area, and you can see how it opens up that savanna type ecosystem. The others, the one on the lower left on the next page is another one that shows where they've taken out that understory. You can actually see some of the piles, the little red dots in there. Those are piles of undergrowth that have been taken out. The purpose of the project is for forest health, obviously fire prevention, forage production for wildlife and livestock, and timber management. This is our most productive forest in the state, and trying to maintain a lumber timber industry up there is very important to the local community and to the state, the diversity of our economy. So that's an overview of that one. The project potential, I put this in this year just because we have so many different things going on. We had a group here from DC high level, number 2s and number 3s in agriculture Interior and Transportation to look at what we were proposing to do with infrastructure dollars and some of the programs that they oversee. That led us to a conversation about healthy forests. There are a number of funding sources that we can tap into, and we're working on that now. Right after the first of the year, we sent them a wish list. This one we put in at $5 million over 5 years to continue this effort in Crook, Weston, and Campbell counties. And it, as I said, it's created a new partnership up there that is very, very, I think, going to be incredibly productive, ecologically, economically, and socially. So do you have questions on that one? I'll pause a moment, then we can move on, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions, committee? Okay, just to verify, so you expect the current batch of funding to last approximately a year? Is that correct, Mr. Budd? Or how long do we expect it to last as a current appropriate, well, overall project cost of a little over $1 million?
Mr. Chairman, we would anticipate probably 2 years to get that on the ground. We would, when we write the contract, we'll write it for one or write it for 3, and then they can spend it however it works. But when I do the fiscal note, I'll split it in half. If they were to get crews in and weather and everything else cooperates, the more they can do in 1 year, the better, because you don't have to pay mobilization costs. You know, you've got a crew, your cost per acre goes down. So we will do as much of that 400 as we possibly can, but we told them that was a 2-year ask. So wouldn't anticipate coming back next year unless we do tap into some of that state and private forestry money or RCPP or some of the other big dollar requests that we've made of DC.
Okay, thank you. And I also see on this laundry list of agencies that are involved, I don't see the Forest Service on there. You have the BLM, but not the U.S. Forest Service. Is that a correct understanding? They wouldn't necessarily be participating in this, maybe wanting encounter Forest Service land?
Mr. Chairman, the Forest Service right now is not, these are all off forest lands. So it'd be on BLM and private primarily. They are involved in the working group and they are involved in the conversation we're having with DC. But right now, the Department of Ag nexus is with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, NRCS. So the Forest Service is not a direct funder or partner at this point, just because it's not on their lands.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions on this project, committee? Okay, looks like we're good. Go ahead, Mr. Budd.
Mr. Chairman, the next one you got a chance to look at up close and personal this summer. That's the KC to Buffalo fencing. This is phase 2 of that. This will complete the project. This $500,000 is the last dollars that were needed. And I think you're all very familiar with it. We had this as a large project a year ago as well. The purpose of the project obviously is to eliminate or greatly reduce loss of deer due to highway collisions. This is an area, this is the #1 priority in the state right now due to the large number of collisions that occur up there. Obviously, there's a public safety aspect to it, even though that is not the charge of the WWNRT. And it maintains the seasonal movement capacity for mule deer so they can get back and forth. Their movement is east to west up there. And if they're blocked by the highway or if there's a high mortality there, it has a pretty major impact on those deer herds. So that's the purpose. Project potential, obviously, you know, this is something we'll be looking at down the road more and more. There, a next one on the docket is a large overpass on Halleck Ridge on I-80. There are others, and those have been ranked out by the Game and Fish Department based on importance. But it does access the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which has, I believe the number, I may be off a little here, I believe the number is $300 million for highway overpasses and underpasses. We need to be able to show that we have matching funds for those. Most of them run 80-20, 80 them, 20 us. The partnerships, this has been incredibly gratifying to watch. Leadership coming from Muley Fanatics, from the Wildlife Fund, from Greater Yellowstone Coalition, and others have raised millions of dollars to get this done. So we're matching private dollars. We're matching others. It's been a very, very gratifying one to watch. And I just mentioned on the handout that Wyoming is the leader in addressing movement, migration by large ungulates. And so there's good sound science behind it. And I think that's important to know.
Any questions for this project committee? Okay, well, go ahead and proceed.
Killdeer Wetlands is just upriver from Green River, the city of Green River. This is a project that we did several years ago. And for whatever reasons, and I'm not going to conjecture why, the project didn't work. And when we went back and looked at it, or when the proponents went back and looked at it, the dike they put in was too high. There were some other things that led to a failure there. This would be a retrofit on the dike, would drop it down approximately 18 to 20 inches. That would eliminate the other problems that are there. It's a great project, and its purpose when it worked early on, when it appeared to be working, it allows fish to move up and down the river. That's clearly an important aspect of the Colorado River system. And the green also prevents or manages flooding and loss of stream function. By managing that stream and keeping the power in the middle of the stream, you don't end up eroding banks, having people's houses fall into the river, things like that. And it restores a natural wetland function on the historic floodplain outside of town. It got a tremendous amount of leverage. Rocky Mountain Power came in and repaired all of the wetland infrastructure at their own cost. That reduced the total on this thing significantly. We have reached out to Homeland Security and FEMA for the design features, and we think that there's a good chance that they'll handle the cost of all of the design and even contribute to the project. But it's a very important project to the town of Green River. And as you know, we've done these in a lot of our communities. They've turned out to be very, very productive. The one I would call out that I think most of you are aware of is in Representative Provenza's district, the river through Laramie, where it's been reconstructed and turned into a fishery. You can't go by there without seeing little kids fishing in that Laramie River now. So similar project to that, fairly low cost for the benefit that'll be received.
Any questions, committee? Okay, I have one. Did you have a number for how much, I guess, that cost has been reduced? It'd be nice to be able to talk about that in specific terms. So do you have any estimate of what the cost would be without those additional benefits from, say, Rocky Mountain Power?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an actual cost. I will get it for you, but I would tell you that it's probably in the $100,000 to $200,000 range.
Yeah, that'd be good. And we love talking about how much other funds or other efforts we leverage with these state dollars. So yeah, all that is good information to have.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead and proceed, Mr. Budd.
South Pass Aspen 4. I don't know if all of you have driven over South Pass in the last few years, but this is a tremendous project spearheaded by Game and Fish, Amy Anderson, one of our past partners of the year. And it's cleaning up encroachment from conifers, but also just decadent stands of aspen. When I was younger, you drive over South Pass in the fall and it was red and yellow and all the aspen just expressing color. And that over the years turned to a dark green color from conifers. We are now back, if you drive it in the fall, to where the vibrant colors of the aspen are back. That's important because these habitats are very highly productive. They're second only to riparian areas, streams and rivers in terms of their production, in terms of biodiversity and just sheer production. it's also a major factor in preventing catastrophic wildfire because aspens tend to stop that. They tolerate fire, but they also slow it because they're a much wetter site. And that is another benefit of these projects is the water retention and the water yield that you get, not to mention an increased forage for wildlife and livestock. So the fourth phase, this will continue to grow. We've now got these projects in many places. Green Mountain, as you know, you've seen that as a large project before, but throughout that area. And then the one that we had last year, I think that you all got a chance to look at was Long Creek. You saw we funded it again this year. That's another one up out of Du Bois that's paying tremendous dividends. Potential is to expand. And again, it's one of the priorities that we gave USDA for state and private forestry, Forest Service money. This project is with the Forest Service. That's the other dollars in it are primarily theirs. And it's an ongoing project. So one that addresses climate change and carbon storage as well.
Okay, any questions, committee? Okay, I'll have one if nobody else does it. So is this on Forest Service land primarily, Mr. Bud?
Mr. Chairman, this is on state, private, Forest Service, and BLM. Primarily at this point on private and state, but the next largest would be Forest Service.
Fair enough. So those conifers don't really care about political boundaries, it sounds like. So, all right, well, good. That's a good story to tell. About the joint effort between multiple different agencies at state, local, and private individuals. So, okay, any questions, committee, for this project? All right, go ahead, Mr. Bud.
Last one, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I did send you an amendment to put this in. That was my screw up. I just didn't add it when I sent the draft bill over to Brian. So my apologies, but very straightforward. You've seen a lot of these river restoration projects. This one is on the Henry's Fork in the southern part of the state. This one actually is a Utah and Wyoming project. When the Henry's Fork goes into Utah, Utah is picking up 2 structures there. We're doing 11 in Wyoming. Couple things about this one that I think are pretty impressive. The design cost and the cost to get this completed are among the lowest that we've had to deal with. And that reflects well on what TU and their partners, the Conservation District and all those landowners down there have done. It's very productive country. It'll improve their irrigation efficiency. Obviously allows fish passage, which is a big issue in trying to address endangered species or species of greatest environmental or conservation concern. We'll add the natural wetland function in the historic floodplain. And we've got multiple landowners. A number of them were on this visit when Don Schramm and I went, started at the lower end and worked our way up. But those who were at the upper end of it, further than we could get in one site visit, met us halfway. And so we talked to those landowners. They're very excited about it. A great project and in a part of the state where we haven't worked as much as some of the others. So it's nice to be working in the Bridger Valley. Mr. Chairman, those are the projects. And if you want to work the bill, I'd be happy to help with that if I need to.
Okay, yeah, before we do that, last chance or not last chance, but anybody have any questions at this point now? Awfully quiet out there, committee. That's okay. We know that the board and Mr. Bud have done their homework. Okay, Mr. Bud, yeah, feel free to go ahead and proceed with the bill itself, understanding that all the pertinent information has probably been covered, but there's a few important things as part of the bill that we haven't talked about. So yeah, feel free to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 2, pretty much boilerplate. These are all in every bill we do. I don't think there's any changes there. There are questions or anything there, but page 3 is the description of the Northeast Forest Health. As I went through that, it's a $400,000 appropriation. and pretty straightforward, I think. Budget on the total is 1.3 million. That is different than the what I showed you on the PowerPoint. I'll correct the PowerPoint. After we went up and did the site visit and talked with them, they realized they had other money in it that they hadn't counted. And so we asked them to do the recounting again. And that led to that. So page 3, page 4, again, very straightforward. It's fence construction. Unlikely there'll be road replacement and underpass construction. We put that in case there is, just so that we didn't have a law that said to do one thing and then something else came up. As you all went up and looked at that project this summer, you could see where occasionally if something happened and it was opportune to do it, but that is not planned. It's primarily just fencing. We're hopeful this will come in under budget, but you never can tell with transportation. So page 6 is the Killdeer Wetland project, 6 and 7. And again, it very straightforward. The purposes are the same as what I went through in the PowerPoint. And 200,000 is the 200,000. Let me explain that, because this comes up every year. On page 7, you'll see the board is authorized to grant $350,000 to the project. And then you'll see below that in the appropriation on line 8 that it's 200,000. That's because the board already did 150 on this wetland and structure. This would be an additional 200. So we're not asking to appropriate the whole amount. We've already appropriated 150. That's why those numbers are different. And you will all get asked that question, particularly by those who are newer to the legislature and haven't seen this bill. Why are they different? The reason they're different is we've already spent the 150. Continue on page 7, the South Pass Aspen project, same issue here. This is they've actually been allocated $995,000 over time. This has been ongoing now for about 8 years, and this appropriation is 300,000. So that's where that comes in. And couple other things on page 9. You'll see the staff comment from Brian. The last of the statutory projects, for years ago, we used to put them in the statute for the agency. And the last of those has been completed and paid. And we probably eliminated, Brian, 20 pages of statute by doing this. Appreciate the fact that this committee is the one that helped us figure a way forward to get that done. And Brian did all the heavy lifting to get there. And then, Mr. Chairman, I would ask if you're agreeable that on page 9, that is where I would insert the amendment that I have sent out today on the Henry's Fork. So that's the bill, Mr. Chairman. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions, committee? Okay, yeah, straightforward enough. So we do have an amendment that we'll have to throw in there once the time comes. But yeah, it seems to wrap up the explanation of the bill. So anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Budd?
Mr. Chairman, no, other than to thank you all for your continued support and the work that you've done. I really enjoy the opportunity to get out in the field with you, and sorry for those that we missed this year, but we'll get on it again next year. And I look forward to seeing you in Cheyenne.
Okay, well, I'll hold you to that, Mr. Budd. At least somebody down there is excited to have us come down, so we'll see how it goes. So, okay, so any other questions, comments, committee?
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion?
Sure, let's just double check. I can't quite see all the room. Just make sure there's no public comment, either online or in the room.
Mr. Chairman, we have no one in the room in person, and I don't see anyone on Zoom either for public comment.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, it looks like public comment is closed. Mr. Co-Chairman, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move the bill.
Okay, moved by
Second that.
Okay, moved by Representative Paxton, second by Representative Provenza. Any discussion or amendments, committee?
Mr. Chairman, I move the Henry Forks amendment that was previously reviewed.
I'll
Okay.
second that as well.
Okay, sounds good. So we have that amendment that deals with the clerical error, moved by Representative Paxton, seconded by Representative Provenza. Any discussion, committee? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Looks like there's nobody, so that passes unanimously. So we're back on the bill. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, this is a vote to sponsor 22 LSO 333 as amended. Senator Cooper.
Aye.
And then Mr. Chairman, Senator Guru left a proxy vote of aye. Representative Provenza,
Aye.
Representative Roscoe,
Aye.
Chairman Paxton,
Aye.
Chairman Boner.
Aye.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, committee. Appreciate your time, and of course, appreciate Mr. Budd and his volunteer board, as well as the staff, for all the hard work that goes into a half-hour legislative committee meeting up here just before we get to the session. That's yeah, definitely a testament to the hard work and dedication of the folks involved with these projects. So, Mr. Co-Chairman, I think it might be best to start this one in the Senate after reviewing the record of the last large project funding bill. But committee, any discussion or perspective on how best to proceed?
That sounds like a good idea to me, Mr. Chairman. I think probably you guys can get the kinks worked out of it before it hits our body.
We'll do our best, but no promises. Okay. So any further questions or comments, committee, before we adjourn? Okay. Oh, Mr. Roscoe, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's the best committee I'm on by far. That's okay. Thank you.
Better than corporations right now, that's for sure. But any further discussion, committee, before I get in trouble? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn. See you all soon.